Well, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's documentary watch party. I'm Goldie Ghamari, your host. Great to see all of you. Sorry about the delay. There was a few things that I had to take care of. Got a little bit delayed there, but we are back and we are ready to go. So this is a documentary that we started watching last night. It is about democracy before 1979. And this documentary, it shares a lot of very, very good info. So I'm really happy to watch it with all of you to provide some context and provide some feedback. So make sure, guys, that you help out the algorithm, like, subscribe, and share this with everyone. And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you go and you watch my video that I posted earlier. So if you're not sure, because one thing that I'm trying to do, and I've committed to doing is, prior to the Iranian revolution starting on December 25, I used to post a lot of videos, right? Like I would provide sort of short form content videos that I would sort of share different perspectives and provide some commentary on various issues. And then after December 28, when everything sort of started in occupied Iran with the revolution, I started live streaming Iran Revolution Live, and of course, those live streams would go on for quite a number of hours. And, those live streams are great, but of course, there's so much content, so much information in there. And of course, for people who just want to get sort of the main points or the issues, um, sometimes that information can be lost there. So, oh, Noli, you saw my video? Did you like it? Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, you guys like that? Okay. Hatchet man, my neighbor fled from Iran. Now I can say hello. Yeah, Durud. Say Durud. You will like he will be super, super impressed. Oh, you guys enjoyed that? Okay, so thank you for that. That's why I was a little bit delayed because I was kind of, I'm trying to get back into the groove. Do you want me to play that video for you and share it with you guys? Because I'd love to get your feedback on that. I actually just finished filming another video that I'm going to be editing later tonight, and then hopefully that one's going to go live tomorrow. But yeah, like one thing that I really want to commit to is to try and create more sort of short form content about Iran, so that it's more easily digestible or manageable. Play it first. You weren't able to finish it. All right. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So on my YouTube channel, where you can find these sort of short form videos, it's under Goldie Unfiltered. So, I used to do a lot of these videos back in the day, but of course now with the Iran Revolution, I kind of stopped. So I'm starting that up again. So okay, so this is the one that I posted. All right, so here I'll share this with you guys, and then let me know what you guys think. Let me know. I'll turn my camera off, but I will be here looking at the comments. So here we go. Let me just change this setting there. All right, yeah, let me know what you guys think. President Trump is not only arming the Iranian people, he's also training them to fight and overthrow the Islamic regime that's been occupying Iran for the last 47 years. Given everything that I've noticed in the last 24 hours, I'm 100% convinced of this fact. And let me explain why. I'm Goldie Ghamari, former Canadian politician and current human rights activist, and you're watching Goldie Unfiltered. I have to work on like a better intro there. That's just something I did like last minute. So I don't know. But it's like a little intro thing. One of the advantages that I have as a former politician of 7 years and having been in politics for 10 years is that I understand political speak. I know how to dissect it, and I know what politicians mean when they say one thing, but you have to read between the lines, right? That's very important. And President Trump has been putting out a lot of messages and a lot of signals in the last not just 24 hours, but since this entire conflict began back on December 28th. And here's a little insider secret from a former politician. Politicians do not share media or news articles or videos from other people on their social media accounts unless they agree with it, right? I mean, you're not going to post an article with no comment or no context if you don't agree with it. The only time a politician will post a news article or a video or something, and if they disagree with it, they will actually say in the comments, I disagree with this post and here's why. However, if a politician just posts the link to an article or posts a video and doesn't say anything at all, you can take that as a sign that that politician 100% agrees with the messaging in that news article or video or link or whatever it is. Take that from me. That's a little insider tip from a former politician. The other important piece of the puzzle when it comes to politicians trying to share messages without officially sharing the message themselves is they will speak through other people. In the case of President Trump, there are a limited number of people that I have noticed he speaks through in order to get the messaging out there. People like Sean Hannity, Maria Bartiromo, and of course, Mark Levin. This is really important. Now, whether or not you like these people or not is completely irrelevant. You need to accept the fact that President Trump is very close with these three people, and these three people have been laying the foundation, let's say, laying the groundwork for things that President Trump will eventually do or has been doing behind the scenes. This is something that I have noticed very, very clearly since all of this began back on December 28 with the first strike after the collapse of the Iranian rial. And I have been monitoring the situation daily. So believe me or not, I'm just telling you, if you actually want to know what's going on, these are the people you need to pay attention to. And as always, I'm correct. And here's why. 24 hours ago, President Trump posted this video clip of Mark Levin's Saturday night show on his Truth Social. Remember what I said about politicians posting videos or links to media or news articles without context? When a politician just shares something without disagreeing with the video, that means they agree with the video and they want to share the message. So let's see what President Trump wants you to know about what's happening in occupied Iran.
We don't have to create opposition. There is opposition. We need to seize the opportunity, and we need to see the opportunity. And by that, I mean that our CIA, along with the Israeli Mossad, make determinations about the best way to determine who to train and arm.
Did you catch that? Let's repeat that. Let's repeat that. Guys, keep in mind, President Trump is sharing this video of Mark Levin, who is explaining to his viewers on Fox and elsewhere, right? Mark Levin is saying that the CIA and Mossad have determined who they need to not only arm, but also train. Pay attention.
There is opposition. We need to seize the opportunity, and we need to see the opportunity. And by that, I mean that our CIA, along with the Israeli Mossad, make determinations about the best way to determine who to train and arm.
Boom. Right there. Guys, President Trump is letting you know that not only is he sending arms to Iranians in occupied Iran in order to overthrow the brutal Islamic regime, he's also letting you know that they're currently being trained. Think about it. Why would President Trump share this video if he didn't agree with it or if he thought it was bogus? Right? Like, guys, sometimes you have to read between the lines, but don't worry. That's why I'm here as a former politician. This is what I did for a living for 7 years. And so I'm here to basically bridge that gap between political speak and regular English. All right, let's continue. Let's see what else Mark Levin is saying. Because again, everything that Mark Levin is saying here, President Trump shared this on his Truth Social, which means he wants you to know about it.
While at the same time, we continue the economic stranglehold and Our military, along with our allies, the Israelis, provide coordinated support with targeted and supportive attacks on the IRGC.
That's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, by the way. The IRGC stands for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is a terrorist paramilitary organization that the pedophile mullahs created back in 1979 when they overtook our country of Iran, turned our country into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. And then they created the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to protect their Islamic caliphate, pedophile jihad country or whatever they created, their system, which, the IRGC is not only the ones that are attacking the United States and Israel, the IRGC are also the ones who are murdering Iranians. And I'll have more to say about that in another video.
And the Basij paramilitary
the Basij
police.
Yep.
That's, in my view, how you do it.
Oh, wait, someone is saying stop and explain for copyright protection to protect from copyright infringement. Guys, this is my own video. How could I copyright infringe my own video? I would literally have to file a copyright strike against myself if I wanted this to be copyrighted infringement, right? So don't worry about the copyright. This is my own video. It's my own video. It's okay. Don't worry about it, guys. All good. All good. All good.
Well, Mark, you never served in the military.
Wow. Okay, so Mark Levin is saying the way to overthrow the Islamic regime, the way to end this conflict is not only through the economic chokehold, which the United States is doing very well. It's not only by, getting rid of IRGC and Basij paramilitary bases, but it's also arming and training the Iranian people. I believe that this is why there has been a little bit of a delay between the initial attack back on February 28, where Israel and the United States exterminated Khamenei, and thank you for that. We love you guys for that forever. That's why there's a little bit of a delay right now, because President Trump is a winner. President Trump wants to make sure that when the final uprising happens, it's done properly. President Trump also has a kind heart. I don't care what you think of him. Like, I'm not interested in your Trump derangement syndrome nonsense. He's a good person. He's a human being. He knows about what happened back on January 8 and 9 with the massacre of over 40,000 innocent unarmed Iranians in 2 days alone. He knows that. Even today, he spoke about that at a press conference, and he said the number could be possibly even higher. So President Trump is aware of how dangerous the situation is. So that leads me to believe the reason that we're seeing this delay is because President Trump wants to make sure that the Iranian people are not only properly armed, but also properly trained. And keep in mind, President Trump has now confirmed again, even today, he confirmed again that the Kurds, and I'm not speaking about Iranian Kurds, because Iranian Kurds are very loyal and very patriotic, but the separatist Iraqi communist Marxist Kurds stole the weapons that were supposed to go to the Iranian people back in January. And President Trump is not happy about that. I'll make another video talking about the Kurds, but for now, I just want you to know that this delay, I believe, is because President Trump wants to make sure that when the Iranian people rise up, it's done properly and that everyone wins and the Islamic regime is overthrown. Because the one thing I know about President Trump is that he's a winner. But let's continue with the video.
I know history. Nobody alive ever served in the Civil War either.
It's true.
Nobody alive ever served in the Revolutionary War either. That's not the point. You do leave it to the experts to figure this out. But the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, he makes the decisions. And I look at history. I look at success in destroying the Soviet Union, success in pushing communism out of Central and South America, And we did this. Success in pushing communism out of parts of Africa. Success in pushing the Russians, the Soviets, out of Afghanistan. We didn't send in troops. We armed the freedom fighters.
We armed the freedom fighters. Again, it's that messaging.
Why would we take this off the table? If the Kurds stole weapons, and the Kurds have been great allies of ours.
You know, I have to disagree with Mark on this one. The Kurds are not your allies, like the separatist Marxist Kurds. They're not your allies. The separatist Marxist Kurds, they're funded by the Soviets, and their entire ideology is centered around Marxism and communism. I'll save that for another video, but you know, on that point, I do disagree with Mark Levin, but that's okay. Kind of irrelevant now, but you know who knows? You know who knows about the Kurds, the separatist Kurds anyway, in Iraq? President Trump, and he called them out today.
The level of ferocity for protest, you know, the people are watching it. They want to go out on the streets. They have no weapons. They have no guns. We thought the Kurds were going to give us weapons, but the Kurds disappointed us. The Kurds take. They have a great reputation in Congress. Congress says, oh, they fight so hard. No, they fight hard when they get paid. So I'm very disappointed in the Kurds, but they were given. I said it wasn't going to work, by the way. I just have to say it. I disagreed with what they did. They gave it. I said, they'll never get there. And I was right. I like to be right. In this case, too bad. But we sent some guns with ammunition, and they were supposed to be delivered, but they kept it. I said they're going to keep it, but what do I know? I've only been doing this a short period of time. What do I know? Go ahead.
Everywhere around the Middle East, they are patriotic. They are pro-American. There are other ways to do this.
No, they're not. They're not. Yeah, some of them are. I mean, the Iranian Kurds are 100% patriotic and pro-American. I believe that, you know, the non-separatist Kurds in Syria as well. But this is the problem here. You guys cannot put all the Kurds into one group, because that's not a thing. There's many different tribes, there's different factions, and the separatist jihadi communist Kurds take advantage of this to fool Americans into thinking that, oh, all Kurds are pro-American. No. There are many Kurdish paramilitary groups who actually support the Islamic regime and who are funded by the Islamic regime and work with the Islamic regime. In fact, those were the Kurds that stole the weapons. And President Trump called it out today.
We thought the Kurds were going to give us weapons, but the Kurds disappointed us. The Kurds take. So I'm very disappointed in the Kurds.
But anyways, let's continue.
The question is whether our CIA is up to the task. I hope it is. I don't know anything about the bureaucracy over there. I remember William Casey, the director of the CIA under Reagan. That man was fearless. It's something to think about quite seriously. This is how we've dealt with it in the past. Obviously, Iran's not Afghanistan. It's not Angola. It's not...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're not Afghanistan or Angola or wherever, right? Like we were a regular, normal, functioning, Western, modernized country up until 1979, when, you know, Jimmy Carter and the Democrats decided to back a brutal Ayatollah pedophile. And that's the purpose of these documentary watch parties, which we are going to get into momentarily. But there you go. All right, let's just continue with this. Because he thought he could control them. I don't know, man. That's the Democrats.
Nicaragua and so forth. But as I see it, as we have all seen, the Iranian people have been more than willing than any other people to die for their liberation.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, that's exactly why over 40,000 innocent unarmed Iranians were murdered in 2 days alone back on January 8 and 9.
They want liberation, and I bet they want retribution against this regime.
Oh, you have no idea.
For slaughtering tens of thousands of their family members and raping and torturing their young women, their daughters, their sisters, their wives, and their mothers by the tens of thousands.
You know why they rape the women? Because the Muslim Nazis that are occupying Iran, they don't view Iranians as Muslim. So, according to their faith, they're allowed to do whatever they want to do to non-Muslim women. So, yeah, it's kind of a sick ideology.
They just need an opportunity.
That's true.
They can't do it with their bare hands.
I mean, we've been trying for 47 years to overthrow the Islamic regime, and we don't have the weapons. We don't have the guns. The Islamic regime, they will use the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and military-grade weapons to slaughter Iranians. They've been doing that for 47 years. They also bring in their paramilitary groups from Iraq, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan. They bring in Hezbollah. They bring in like the Palestinians, right? Like they bring in all these non-Iranian paramilitary terrorist groups that they themselves have created and funded. They will bring those groups in to murder Iranians because they don't view us as human beings. We are occupied by a brutal Islamic dictatorship. They have been occupying us for 47 years. That's why we refer to Iran as occupied Iran. Iran right now is, I would say, the biggest and largest concentration camp in the history of civilization, because there are 90 million people that are being held hostage by a brutal Muslim Nazi regime.
But the point is this: the only certain way to ensure that the Iranian regime can never and will never spread its revolution here in the Middle East, in Europe, or anywhere else, and all that evil and horror that goes with it, involves its elimination.
That's true.
No matter what President Trump does, he will be attacked by the Democrats, the media, the isolationists.
Yeah, because they're the ones who actually supported the 1979 Islamic coup d'etat in the first place. So of course, the Democrats are against this, because they would then have to admit that Jimmy Carter messed up back in 1979, and they're not going to admit that. They don't want to admit that they made one of the biggest mistakes in the 20th century.
For his heroic actions against the Iranian regime. So I would ignore the Democrats and the media and the isolationists. They want failure. They will define success for them as our failure as a nation, because they are driven by a deranged mentality about politics and exploitation for power. They are fundamentally power hungry. Yeah. We've come so far. We've made such incredible progress. Victory is in sight, in my view.
I hope so. So, when Mark Levin says victory is in sight, in my view, and President Trump is sharing this video, that means President Trump agrees with Mark Levin. And that gives me a lot of hope. That makes me think that maybe this 47-year nightmare is finally coming to an end.
There's a gentleman by the name of Efren Fard. He's an expert in counterterrorism on Iran and Middle East, based in Washington, and he writes the following in the Jerusalem Post. Moments in which internal crisis and external pressure converge at this level, he's talking about Iran, are rare, and history suggests they don't remain open indefinitely. Previous opportunities for fundamental change were constrained by hesitation, particularly at the level of international coordination, and those constraints carry consequences. The current moment presents a similar test, but with higher stakes and less margin for delay. If the regime survives, he writes, the ideology that defines the system will remain intact, along with its patterns of behavior, as a threat that cannot be managed indefinitely.
Again, this is, I cannot stress the importance of this enough. President Trump is sharing this video. President Trump wants you to know that the threat of the Islamic regime surviving is a huge threat. And to me, President Trump is communicating using Mark Levin's video, and President Trump is saying that he wants to make sure that the Islamic regime does not survive. President Trump is essentially saying, I'm aware of the threat of the Islamic regime, and I am working towards eradicating the threat of the Islamic regime once and for all. And the only way to eradicate this threat is by destroying them completely.
Systems defined by this level of ideological rigidity and expansionism do not evolve into moderation. They persist until they are forced to change or cease to exist.
Cease to exist. See, right there. Cease to exist. Cease to exist.
The removal of this structure would not only address an immediate security challenge, but would also open the possibility for a different relationship between Iran and the region, one that aligns with the emerging framework established by the Abraham Accords.
And we actually have the Cyrus Accords. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, has spoken about the Cyrus Accords. And that's something that we are all committed to. After the fall of the Islamic regime, we want to normalize relations with the United States. And we also will go back to recognizing Israel as a state and reestablish diplomatic relations with not only Israel, but with the United States as well.
Now, to be clear, I don't have access to all the information the president has.
I don't know. You know what, Mark? I don't know about that. I don't know, Mark. I've been monitoring you. You know a lot, and I know you have President Trump's ear. I don't know.
The military and intelligence experts, but I know what I know. And I know the president of the United States, President Trump, always has the best interests of the American people
Absolutely
at front of mind. And that will be his guiding motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I could not be prouder of our president, his team, and our military. I could not be prouder of all of them. My unsolicited advice, just as a commentator, somebody who studies history, stay the course. Stay the course. But thank you to all those who've brought us to this point, where frankly nobody thought we would ever be. Thanks to our president, our military, and the people around him.
And that, my friends, that is why I am 100% convinced that not only is President Trump arming the Iranian people, he's also training them. Why? Because President Trump is not interested in the survival of the Islamic regime. President Trump wants to completely eradicate the Islamic regime once and for all. And part of that formula is arming the Iranian people and giving them a fighting chance. So if there's this delay that's happening, the delay does not mean that President Trump is giving up or that President Trump wants to negotiate with them or anything like that. This delay is because President Trump wants to make sure that the Iranian people, when they rise up, because they will, Iranian people will rise up. President Trump wants to make sure that when they do, they will not be slaughtered like we were back on January 8 and 9 of 2026. And how do I know that? Because of this Truth Social post that President Trump put out. I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I have a feeling that the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime occupying Iran for the last 47 years, that has not only terrorized the American people, that has not only terrorized Israel, but has also terrorized the Iranian people, I have a feeling that their time is going to be up sooner rather than later. And now you know. So there you go. The video that I actually finished making today, right before I started this live stream, it kind of continues along this path. Because given what President Trump said something really, really, really interesting in the I guess the press conference or whatever that he had yesterday in the White House, in the Oval Office. And I don't want to say it now because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but what he said yesterday, I spoke about this today, and I'm going to finish editing the video after my live stream and I'll post it. But did you guys like that? Like, do you like these sort of videos? Because like I used to make these sorts of videos, which is like more easily digestible. So that's when he was with the women. Yeah, he said something that I don't think a lot of people caught on to, but I caught on to it. And um I made a whole video about that. So, okay, so if you like these videos, I'll definitely continue. Okay. Yeah, because guys, this is basically what I used to do before all the live streaming began. And then, because I was live streaming for hours a day, I really wasn't able to do the videos anymore because once I was done live streaming, I was so exhausted that I would just go to bed. But I mean, like I've done so many of these videos. Like Goldie Unfiltered was like a whole thing, right? Like I did all these like videos where I would just take a concept and share it that way. Okay, so uh, I'm glad to know. So I'll continue on with that because yeah, they're fun. So that's why the live streaming is cut shorter, because I literally need time to also film, edit, and upload those videos as well. But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of do miss the live streaming because we kind of hang out all day, but that's okay. All right, so now let's continue with the documentary. So the name of this documentary is Iran in Search of Democracy. It's from like 1978. Last night, we finished it off about halfway through. So now let's continue where we left off. And again, this is going to give you guys some input and insight on what Iran was like before the Muslim Nazis took over and turned our country into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. So let's continue.
The expression of a few rotten politicians.
From the moment the Crown Prince became Shah at the age of 21, he was engaged in a long and bitter struggle with corrupt and self-seeking politicians from the country's ruling elite. But the young Shah's first priority was to...
Wait, oh my gosh, is this a thing? Wait, what was this? Oh, okay. So now you missed the Rick rolls. Okay, so when I would Rick roll all of you guys, you would all complain and be like, "No, Goldie, why?" But see, now that I don't Rick roll you guys anymore, now you guys miss it. Okay, see, there you go. There you go.
Develop a new foreign policy. He was determined to be more flexible and pragmatic than his father, a strength which his enemies misinterpreted as a...
So guys, remember, the reason that Reza Shah the Great had to abdicate and then his son, Shahanshah Aryamer, took over is because the British and the Russians were not able to control Reza Shah the Great, and they wanted someone there in place that they could control, unfortunately. The sad truth is that since the late 1800s, Iran has basically been like, just another pawn on this great game of chess that has been played between, sort of the communists and, or sort of like the game of chess between like the Russians and the English. So, Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, that's history.
He was determined to be more flexible and pragmatic than his father, a strength which his enemies misinterpreted as a weakness. By the time of the Tehran Conference in November 1943, the young Shah had forged a working relationship with Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. The British and the Russians had earlier promised to withdraw their forces from Iran within 6 months of the war's end. But Stalin continued the occupation and promoted.
Yeah, that's because Stalin, the communist, wanted to bring Iran under the Iron Curtain, right?
A rebellion in the north. Eventually, the Shah refused to be intimidated by Stalin. Rebellion. The war and the Russians had earlier.
Wait, this is important, guys. So when they speak about the rebellion in the north, those are like some of the separatists, right? So again, guys, in the video that I just shared with you earlier, where I speak about the Kurdish separatists and how the Kurdish separatists are basically inspired and funded, and they were created by the communists. This video right here is now bridging the gap, the historical gap, right? Because even back in the 1940s, Stalin was trying to use these militia, like these communist militia groups that he had created and funded to try and balkanize Iran. Okay. So this rebellion that this documentary is talking about, the rebellion was funded by Stalin, and the rebellion came from, communist Marxists. So all these like, paramilitary proxy militia groups in the Middle East, there's a reason that the vast majority of them are linked somehow to Russia or the USSR or the Soviets, right? Because all of this comes from the Russian plan to destabilize the Middle East in order to bring it all under their control. And again, ask yourself why is it that today the Islamic regime, which is a theocracy, a religious theocracy, why is the Islamic regime allies with Russia and China, which are the two biggest communist states in the world, right? And you would think, well, communism and religion don't necessarily align. Okay, so communism is anti-religion, and then the Islamic regime is supposedly anti-communist. So why is it that the Islamic regime is allies with Russia and China, right? That's because Russia actually helped to fund and promote the 1979 Islamic Revolution, and it was the Soviets at the time that actually helped train Yasser Arafat and his Palestinian terrorists, and created the PLO. Even the PLO has ties to Russian communism, and then again, all of these like Kurdish paramilitary terrorist groups, they're all communist because they were all created and funded by the Soviets, because at the time the Soviets created these groups in order to try and balkanize various countries. They were successful with other places. To a degree, they were successful with some parts of Iran, like I'm thinking like Armenia and Georgia. And guys, look what happened when Armenia was sort of balkanized, right? And Armenia went under the control of the Ottomans. The Armenian genocide happened, right? And many Armenians actually had to escape to Iran in order to escape persecution and genocide. So all of the separatist movements that we're seeing today in the Middle East, all of these separatist movements are remnants of this Soviet project that created all of these various terrorist organizations, whether it's the PLO with Yasser Arafat, or like these Kurdish terrorist groups, or like whatever, right? So if you actually dig into it, all of these paramilitary militia groups they're all linked to the Soviets and Stalin.
Promised to withdraw their.
So let me go back a little bit, and now this makes more sense, right? Because like in the 1940s, Stalin promised to withdraw. He did not, and instead he tried to like do a rebellion to separate parts of northern Iran. Because okay, like let me actually share this. So let me see if I can show this, right? So like this will probably make more sense here. So this is why. Where is it? So you see this map? You see the Soviet Union? So here, like this is the Soviet Union, and then this is Iran. So this is why the communist threat was so huge. And this is why the Shah banned communism, because the USSR, right, the Soviet Union at the time, shared like the entire like northern border of Iran on this side and on this side, right? This was all shared with the USSR, with the Soviets. So the like Moscow was constantly trying to balkanize Iran from here and from here. And so what you're seeing today, all these like sort of like separatist movements, that's basically the remnant of these terrorist groups that the USSR created back in the day, right? So this is why the Shah was anti-communism, right? When like Iran was literally the border. Iran was basically the wall that was trying to prevent communism and communists from taking over the country. That's what the Shah was doing. And yeah, Jimmy Carter decided to stab the Shah in the back and support the Islamic regime, which was funded and trained by the Soviets. So there you go. There you go. Thank you, Jimmy Carter, for that one. So okay. So this, I hope this gives you a better sort of understanding of why communism has been such a threat to Iran, and why we Iranians, we are incredibly like anti-communist, right? Because the communists have been trying to destabilize and balkanize Iran for a very, very long time. Okay, I see some super chats. Let me go to those really quickly, and then we'll continue. So Warren Marble became a new member. Thank you, Warren. Welcome to the channel. Kuda says Mark is not able to separate them. Yeah, I mean, I think you're referring to the Kurds. Yeah, I mean that's the challenge, right? Like you cannot just talk about the Kurds. It doesn't make sense. There's various tribes, various factions. That's what people need to understand. Push-ups says the Soviet Kurdish Republic of Mahabad was weird looking. Yeah, so again, like the Kurdish Republic of Mahabad was a Soviet-funded project. I don't even think it didn't even last very long. They were basically just a bunch of communist traitors who were trying to bring northern. So they were trying to bring northern Iran under the Iron Curtain at the time, right? Because like this was the boundary. Obviously, they failed, and they were traitors, and they got what justice was served. Let's say. Cranberry Langers one says, Goldie, I was just told in a conversation with a guy that Trump's lost and that Iran / the terrorists have control over the Hormuz Strait. What do I say? I would probably say, tell him to like whatever he's smoking to just stop. Like just tell him like drugs are bad for your brain. and tell him that he needs to like sober up and like seek some therapy and seek mental help, because that's absolutely insane. Anyone who thinks President Trump has lost is not connected to reality. They're in like a different, I don't know, they're in La La Land or something. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of delusional people out there um, who, for whatever reason, are drinking the Kool-Aid of the Islamic regime because, I don't know, maybe they hate America, maybe they have Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know what it is, but all I can say is that if someone you're speaking with legitimately believes that President Trump and the United States have lost, given that the United States is literally the most powerful army in the world and the Islamic regime is a joke, if someone actually believes that, they're not a rational person. Like you cannot have a rational, normal conversation with that person. So, the only response you can give to that person is okay and move on. Like you literally cannot have a normal conversation with someone like that because, okay. I guess I can pull up the boom boom bingo sheet. Let me pull up the boom boom bingo sheet really quickly, right? So I mean, like these are like the top people within the IRGC, and as you can tell, like the vast majority of the top people have been exterminated, right? So Larijani is gone, like all these people are gone, like all these people are gone, all these people are gone, like everyone in gray is gone. Like guys, going back to what Cranberry. Okay, you know what? Actually, Cranberry. Here's what you can say. Actually, so here's what you can say. So to that person who says President Trump has lost and that the Islamic regime have control over the Hormuz Strait. So I would say, the best way to respond to that is to ask them this question. Ask them why so if President Trump has lost, why hasn't the Islamic regime buried Khamenei yet, right? Like why have they not yet buried Khamenei, the supreme dictator? Because they still haven't had a funeral for Khamenei. They still haven't buried him. And according to Islamic law and tradition, you're supposed to bury someone within 3 days. So it's been well over 2 months. They still haven't buried him. And then the other question I would ask is, why have we not seen any proof of life of the current supreme dictator, Mojtaba Khamenei, right? Why have we not seen him or heard from him or anything like that, right? Like why are we just like seeing like random text messages? Who knows who they've been written by, right? So there you go. Just ask them that, and just ask your, that person, be like, okay, so if President Trump has lost, who is in control? Who's in charge? Who's in charge in occupied Iran right now? Because I don't even know who's in charge. I don't know. I literally don't know because everyone is fighting against one another. And, the video that I was filming today that I'm going to edit and put on YouTube later kind of like alludes to this fact. Like who's in charge? Right? Who, like, people ask me all the time, who's in charge? And I'm like, I don't know. I would love to know who's in charge, but it's literally like it's Game of Durka right now, right? Like, Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones and how everyone's infighting, vying for power. Right now in occupied Iran with the Islamic regime, it's Game of Durka. So all the Durkas are like fighting one another, trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, if your friend or whoever is getting their info from CNN or all the progressive places, they all suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And unfortunately, CNN has pretty much become a mouthpiece for the terrorist Islamic regime. So you're not going to get a lot of good info there. I don't even really watch mainstream media. The only mainstream media that I watch these days is like Fox News. One America News Network, Newsmax, and News Nation. Or, like, let me put it this way. The only time that I really watch mainstream media is when I want to listen to what a politician or someone who's connected to Trump's administration is saying, right? Because I just want um, I want the primary source. I'm not interested in hearing what random news reporters have to say, because for me as an Iranian who has been monitoring this, and I've been speaking about Iran and all of that stuff for a very long time, like, I don't pay attention to what journalists say, because Western journalists, they don't know, they literally know nothing. They know nothing about what's happening in occupied Iran. There are a few who are, starting to get a better understanding, and they have a more fulsome picture. Again, Sean Hannity, Maria Bartiromo, Mark Levin, Glenn Beck, right? These are people like these are the journalists that I always have time for, and I have a lot of respect for. But like, I'm not going to watch CNN for my analysis on Iran, right? As an Iranian, like, that's nonsense to me. Um, uh, and then of course I'm going to pay attention to those politicians within President Trump's administration who are close to him and are speaking on his behalf, right? So there's Senator Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, of course, Ted Cruz, Pete Hegseth, and John Kennedy as well. These are the people that are close to President Trump, who are of course speaking, and President Trump is speaking through them, let's say. So that's sort of So that's sort of how I see all of this going down. But I mean, if your friend is like watching CNN, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, my condolences, I guess, because like, that's just, I don't know. Like, how can you? I don't know. CNN is pretty much broadcast on Islamic regime state TV, and we've shown that before as well. So I don't know what to tell you. That's a tough one. All right, one more super chat, and then we'll go back to the documentary. I mean, of course, like, I always welcome super chats. So if you guys have questions, more than happy to answer them. So KP says, "Good evening, Goldie. On behalf of my military family, we are U.S. military, not army. The army is a leg of the military. It's kind of like the Iranians are not the regime." You know what? You're absolutely right. So, you're right. That there is a difference. There's a difference, and I apologize for that, because I'm not a military person. But you're absolutely right, because there's the U.S. military, and then within the military, there's like the army, there's like the Navy, there's the Air Force, and all the various branches of that. So you're absolutely right. I will try to be more cognizant of the fact. So yes, I should say the U.S. military. Yeah, there's also the Marines. Yeah, so there's the Marines. Okay, so guys, this is what it is. So the U.S. military, from my understanding, comprises of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. Right? There's six. There's six. Am I right? There's six branches to the military. And the reason that I know this is because, like, years ago, there was this guy on TikTok, and he was super hilarious. Like, he would make these videos of I think he was like an I don't know I don't know if he was a Marine or whatever. He was a military guy. He was a US military guy. And then he would just make these like really funny videos of like the various branches of the US military interacting with one another. Oh gosh. Do I need to find this now? This is going back like to like COVID times, because that's like, I would watch like these funny videos. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Oh gosh. All right, you guys are putting me on the spot here. Okay. Wait, log in. All right, give me one moment, guys. Let me see if I can figure this out. Wait.
So you have to understand if you.
What's going on?
Please stop.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to do this. I need to find the guy because he was so funny. Like, he would make all these, like, videos. Okay, I found him. I think it was this guy. Was it this guy? Okay, it seems like he's expanded now. Okay. Wow, he has like 3 million followers now on TikTok. Good for him. Wait, let me see. Okay, here we go. Okay, I found it. So it was this guy, and like he would make all these like really funny videos where he would like compare the different like branches of the military.
Oh my God, don't you just love the water?
So here's one.
Oh my God, don't you just love the water? We should just like take our clothes off. Water. Fuck you, army.
Oh no, he swore.
Oh my God, don't you just love the water? We should just like.
So yeah, this guy, like he just made.
Oh God, please. Don't let this parachute open. Arm out, bitches. There's water down there. Can we go swimming when we go down? Oh, fucking God. I want to. I'm going to sail to this show, okay? What's it going to take? Okay, I want to go.
The Marines.
Yeah, you can take this back. I'm not jumping out of this bitch. Here you go. Wow, now that's his potato!
There you go. So yeah, guys, this guy right here, this is how I know about the 6 branches of the U.S. military, because I would watch these and I would be like, oh, okay, so there's within the military, there's Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, and Air Force, right? So that's how I know the 6 guys. See, sometimes TikTok can be useful. Here you go. I'll share some more. Okay, one more. Sandwiches with the branches, and then we'll go back to the documentary.
Oh, God damn. That's sick. It's not the meat I was hoping for, but I wish I had some so good. I have to make this myself. I'm okay. Thanks though. Bye. The final ingredient.
There you go. Okay, so that's how I know about the different branches of the Marines. Yeah, I learned that from TikTok years ago. Okay, so But thank you for that. You're absolutely right. I should be more clear. I should say the US military, because the military comprises of all 6 branches. So I will be more cognizant of that fact. Thank you. Zekada, I don't know what that is, but sure, okay. I'm assuming you're enjoying the military videos. All right, let's continue with the documentary. So, okay, so where were we? So we now established that the so we've now established that the Soviets were trying to bring Iran under the Iron Curtain. And this map right here, right? This map right here provides very important context as to why the Shah was anti-communism and anti-communist, because the Soviets were constantly trying to balkanize Iran. And Iran at that time was basically acting like the dam, right? Iran was the dam protecting the rest of the world from communism. And of course, then Jimmy Carter stabbed us in the back, because there you go, Democrats, right? But let's continue.
Had forged a working relationship with Roosevelt. By the time of the Tehran Conference in November 1943, the young Shah had forged a working relationship with Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. The British and the Russians had earlier promised to withdraw their forces from Iran within 6 months of the war's end. But Stalin continued the occupation and promoted a rebellion in the north. Eventually, the Shah refused to be intimidated by Stalin and sent his troops north to put down the rebellion. And with the help of international pressures, the Shah forced the Russians out. After this success for the Shah's new foreign policy, Iran's parliament met in a new mood of confidence. But the removal of the direct Russian threat only intensified Iranian bitterness towards Britain. In the years of street demonstrations, mob violence, and assassinations which followed, the British, like the Russians, worked behind the scenes to exploit every dissident element for their own ends. The Communist Party, the Tudor, took the frontline role in demonstrations against the Shah. For a time, British oil interests actively encouraged the communists. The violence of these years included the first attempt on the Shah's life.
Oh, will you look at that? Look at that, the violence from the communists, and they tried to assassinate the Shah of Iran. Guys, what does this remind you of? Americans, what does this remind you of right here? Violence from the political left trying to assassinate President Trump. Do you see this? The left have always been violent. They've been gaslighting you. It's the same communist, Marxist, Antifa, whatever, right? And Antifa is basically the modern sort of version of what we Iranians have been dealing with. Look, they tried to assassinate the Shah, and they were funded and trained by the communists, by the Soviets, by the Russians, because they wanted to bring Iran under the Iron Curtain. Listen to this again. It's not even the Durkas at this point. It's not even the Durkas. The Durkas were not even in power yet. It was the communists. It was the leftists.
For their own ends. The communist confidence. But the removal of the direct Russian threat only intensified Iranian bitterness towards Britain. In the years of street demonstrations, mob violence, and assassinations which followed, the British, like the Russians, worked behind the scenes to exploit every dissident element for their own ends. The Communist Party, the Tudor.
Yeah, I mean, the British are not without fault either. Like, I have a lot to say about the British government back in the day and still today. I mean, the British government is pretty much garbage at this point. But I mean, Britain has turned into an Islamic hellhole. I have zero sympathy for the British government. I feel a lot of sympathy for the British people, because the British people are now suffering the consequences of this sort of deep state British system that not only turned Iran into an Islamic hellhole, but now they're trying to turn Britain into an Islamic hellhole as well. So, zero sympathy for the British government, but a lot of sympathy for the British people, because there's like this globalist agenda to destroy various countries. And I have a feeling Britain is next. But a lot of what's happening in Britain is because of what they did in the past. But again, like, look at this.
In the years of street demonstrations, mob violence and assassinations which followed, the British, like the Russians, worked behind the scenes to exploit every dissident element for their own ends. The Communist Party, the Tudor, took the frontline role in demonstrations against the Shah.
Yeah, so the Communist Party that he mentioned is the Tudeh Party. Let me bring that up for you guys. So this is the party that the documentary is referring to. So the Tudeh Party of Iran is an Iranian Marxist-Leninist communist party formed in 1941 with some garbage person as its leader. The organization held significant influence in its early years, guys, and played an important role during Mohammad Mossadegh's campaign to nationalize the Anglo-Persian oil company, as well as throughout his term as prime minister. Guys, do you see? So when we tell you that, the whole 1953 Mohammad Mossadegh garbage, right? That, like, the only people who speak about Mohammad Mossadegh, خبر مرگش خاک تو سرش, Mossadegh was with the Tudeh party. Mossadegh was a Russian asset. And Mossadegh was basically an ally of the communists, and he tried to suspend the constitution, and he tried to bring Iran under the Iron Curtain. The Shah of Iran prevented that, and then the communists came up with this whole fake narrative about, oh, the Shah overthrew the democratically elected prime minister of Iran. Okay, there's nothing. Okay, so someone is saying, what's wrong with nationalizing oil? There's nothing wrong with nationalizing oil, except Mossadegh didn't try to nationalize oil. This is part of the fake news here. Mossadegh didn't want to nationalize oil. Mossadegh wanted to give control of Iran to the USSR and give all of the oil to USSR in exchange for him becoming the new Shah. That's what Mossadegh wanted, because Mossadegh was a Qajar prince. Mossadegh was related to the previous dynasty that came before the Pahlavi dynasty, and Mossadegh was angry that the democratically elected parliament of Iran chose a different dynasty. So Mossadegh was basically an opium-addicted communist, prince, and he just wanted to become the ruler of Iran, and he was willing to sell out Iran's resources to the Soviets in order to become the new Shah of Iran. So that's what was happening there. It was, in fact, the Shah of Iran who was nationalizing oil. So there you go. Yeah. Mohammad Mossadegh and the Tudeh party were basically a Russian construct, right? Like the Tudeh party of Iran was actually founded and created in Moscow, because the Soviets brought Iranians to Moscow. They trained them, they funded them, and then they actually helped them with all of these, attempted assassinations against the Shah. and attempted, revolutions. So that's what you're witnessing here, guys. And for you, Americans and Europeans and everyone else, pay attention, because this is literally what's happening in your countries right now. This is what's happening in your countries right now. And it's very dangerous, because these communists and Marxists and socialists and Antifa, they're basically saying that they have, their ideas are just as legitimate as yours. However, the problem is that their ideas are contributing to the destabilization and destruction of your societies. So there you go.
In the years of street demonstrations, mob violence, and assassinations which followed, the British, like the Russians, worked behind the scenes to exploit every dissident element for their own ends. The Communist Party, the Tudor, took the frontline role in demonstrations against the Shah. For a time, British oil interests actively encouraged the Communists. The violence of these years included the first attempt on the Shah's life. Apart from the Communists, the Shah's enemies included ultra-conservative forces, amongst them religious fanatics and feudal landlords.
There you go, guys. So this unholy alliance of the red and the black that we speak about, black being Islamists and red being the Marxist, communist, socialists. This unholy alliance of the red and the black has existed since the 1940s, 1950s. And guys, the 1979 Islamic coup d'etat, it didn't happen overnight. It's not like people just woke up one day and were like, okay, let's overthrow the Shah and bring about Islam. No, this was a concerted effort, and it took a few generations. In fact, it took a few generations before the unholy alliance of the red and the black had enough traction and legitimacy amongst non-Iranians for someone like Jimmy Carter to support them. So guys, this is really important, because right now you think that these like communists and Marxists and Islamists are a small minority. Sure, but they're violent, and they're unrelenting. They're unrelenting. It took them 30 years to overthrow the Shah, but they didn't stop until they were successful. And as you can see, they attempted to assassinate the Shah several times. They also attempted to overthrow the Shah several times as well. And that's what you're seeing right now. All right, I'll be right back.
Who were beginning to take fright at what the Shah might do to improve the lot of the peasants.
Would you recall for us the events of the 4th of February 1949, which was in fact the first attempt to assassinate you at Tehran University?
As usual, every year I was going to distribute the diplomas and the first prizes to the students of Tehran University at the Faculty of Law. And all of a sudden, I hear shots, and my face is projected to one side when I realized that I was being shot at. And he had shot 3 bullets through my hat, 1 through my cheek, but the bullet came out just through the nose without hurting anything, any nerves, any teeth. 1 was destined for the heart, but at this fraction of, or even less than a fraction of a second, I was just making a gesture, a turn of the body. So I got it in my left elbow.
That's crazy, because this reminds me so much of what happened to President Trump, right? It was the same thing with President Trump. Like, President Trump, basically, he moved his head at the last moment, and that's what saved President Trump. And that's exactly what happened to our Shahanshah Aryamir. And remember, guys, Shahanshah Aryamir, he's the father of the current Shah of Iran. Okay, let me go to some of super chats here. Push-ups. Mossadegh, the beginning of Iranian history. Yeah, I mean, guys, this is a sarcastic comment. Push-ups loves his sarcasm. And yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know something, Push-ups, it's like one of the most frustrating things for me is when, you know, like I'm posting something or whatever, and then like a non-Iranian is like, all of this happened because, you know, 1953 Mossadegh. And I'm like, do you not know anything about Iranian history before 1953? Like, we are like, our history goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So wow, you're just talking about 1953. So yeah, believe me, the frustration is real, but I appreciate your sense of humor, so thank you for that. And then push-ups. Fun fact, MEK was founded by Mossadegh government ministers. I mean, I didn't know that. I'll look into that, but I wouldn't be surprised because the MEK is a Marxist Islamist group. And you know what's really interesting is that the MEK, like the MEK actually, oh my gosh, I have the photo somewhere. Like the MEK actually like celebrate or whatever, like they hold oh yeah, here we go. Continue without consent. Here we go. Like you know what, you know what, Push-ups, you're absolutely right, because look at this. The MEK commemorate the, I don't know, birth or death or whatever garbage thing of Mossadegh every year in their weird like camp at Camp Ashraf in Albania or whatever. So yeah, the MEK, which is like the Marxist Islamist terrorist cult, the MEK worship Mossadegh and they honor him. So this in and of itself should tell you everything you need to know about how all of these communist Marxist terrorist groups are related, right? Yeah. And this is from their own garbage website. This photo is from their own garbage website. Look. Right? Like, خاک تو سرشون. Wait, let me just save this photo so that I have access to it. So I don't have to go to like their garbage website again. Is it? Today's a 12. Ron. There you go. So yeah, guys, yeah, the MEK worship Mossadegh, and the MEK view Mossadegh as one of their founders, right? For those of you who are new, do you know who the MEK is? You know what? Maybe I should play the MEK video again. Because I know we have some new people who have joined us for the first time. And I know many of you are experts when it comes to the MEK, but let me play the MEK video because I think this is going to add a lot of context. Guys, like the MEK is like the modern, okay, you don't know who the MEK are? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to share this video with you. I've shared the video before, but it's really important to share it again. The MEK is like the modern iteration of Mossadegh and all these other jihadi durkas. So let's watch this video together and then we'll continue with the documentary.
Washington, they are sold as freedom fighters, the democratic alternative for Iran. But before we buy the packaging, we need to read the receipts. Founded in 1965, the MEK combined Islamic theology with Marxist ideology. Their mission? To destroy the Shah's government and drive American imperialism out of Iran. From the start, they followed two tracks: armed struggle and propaganda. In the 1970s, they used bombs to target American personnel. They assassinated at least 6 U.S. citizens, including military officers Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Hawkins, Colonel Paul Schaefer, and Lieutenant Colonel Jack Turner. Their radicalism was
Did you guys catch that? So in the 1970s, the MEK, they murdered American soldiers and American civilians
to target American personnel. They assassinated at least 6 U.S. citizens, including military officers Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Hawkins, Colonel Paul Schaefer, and Lieutenant Colonel Jack Turner. Their radicalism was fueled by deep ties to the Palestine Liberation Organization, sending members to training camps in Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Their platform called for the total uprooting of Zionist foundations. When the U.S. Embassy was seized in 1979, the MEK actively participated. They declared, "After the Shah, it's America's turn." In the wake of the failed U.S. rescue attempt, they placed their military units at the disposal of the Revolutionary Guards to fight America. Once the hostages were released, the MEK condemned it as a surrender and labeled restoring U.S. ties as treason. Following a fallout with the new regime, they fled to Iraq to become foot soldiers for Saddam Hussein. In 1991, they reportedly helped Saddam's guard crush Shia and Kurdish uprisings. Inside their camps, they became a cult. Reports describe forced divorces, stolen children, and re-education prisons for dissenters. Because of these violent acts, the U.S. State Department designated the MEK as a foreign terrorist organization in 1997. However, the MEK launched a massive, multi-million-dollar lobbying campaign in Western capitals. In 2012, during the Obama administration, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton delisted them. But even then, the U.S. government warned, "We have not forgotten their past terrorism." Today, the goal is rebranding. The message is polished. The events look official. The branding says freedom. But the record does not change. An official State Department report was clear. They are shunned by most Iranians and are fundamentally undemocratic. They are not a viable alternative for Iran. However, some prominent U.S. political figures and advocacy networks have tried to rebrand the MEK. But make no mistake, these are paid appearances.
And MEK is leading the way to...
Oh, guys, look, it's Mike Pence. It's Mike Pence. It's the former, Vice President of the United States of America, Mike Pence. Mike Pence has been bought out by the MEK. The same MEK that murdered Americans back in the 1970s. And Hillary Clinton delisted the MEK. Yeah, there you go, guys.
a free Iran.
Is there an alternative to the mullahs, to the dictatorship? And the answer is yes. It's the resistance. It's the MEK. It's Mrs. Rajabi.
The MEK has funneled massive sums into speakers' fees, but they are not buying legitimacy. They're renting it. Today, they hide behind shell groups like the Organization of Iranian American Community to appear popular. They can still push the same narrative through lobbying and legacy media, and they even disable comments across their digital platforms because they cannot handle public feedback. But we've seen the history. We're not buying the packaging. We're reading the receipts. In Washington,
so just a quick FYI, the M in MEK stands for Mujahideen. Mujahideen means fighters for jihad. So any group, doesn't matter if it's Iranian, Arab, Afghan, whatever, I don't care. If there's a group or organization that has the word Mujahideen in their name somewhere, that literally means that they are fighters for jihad, which means they are, jihadis. Like they want jihad, right? So people were asking for the link to this video. The link to this video is available on my YouTube channel. Let me just show you where you can find it. And then I'll also put the link in all of the chats. So if you go to my YouTube channel, wait, let me remove this and let me add this one. So if you go to my YouTube channel, and then it's in play, you know what? I don't even know where it is. Wait, give me one moment. Let me just put the link here for you guys because I think I removed the playlist link. All right, give me one moment.
Old as
Let me just play this video one more time because the info is really important. I'll go find the video link and then I will come share it with you guys.
in Washington, they are sold as freedom fighters, the democratic alternative for Iran. But before we buy the packaging, we need to read the receipts. Founded in 1965, the MEK combined Islamic theology with Marxist ideology. Their mission? To destroy the Shah's government and drive American imperialism out of Iran. From the start, they followed two tracks: armed struggle and propaganda. In the 1970s, they used bombs to target American personnel. They assassinated at least 6 U.S. citizens, including military officers Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Hawkins, Colonel Paul Schaefer, and Lieutenant Colonel Jack Turner. Their radicalism was fueled by deep ties to the Palestine Liberation Organization, sending members to training camps in Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Their platform called for the total uprooting of Zionist foundations. When the U.S. Embassy was seized in 1979, the MEK actively participated. They declared, "After the Shah, it's America's turn." In the wake of the failed U.S. rescue attempt, they placed their military units at the disposal of the Revolutionary Guards to fight America. Once the hostages were released, the MEK condemned it as a surrender and labeled restoring U.S. ties as treason. Following a fallout with the new regime, they fled to Iraq to become foot soldiers for Saddam Hussein. In 1991, they reportedly helped Saddam's guard crush Shia and Kurdish uprisings. Inside their camps, they became a cult. Reports describe forced divorces, stolen children, and re-education prisons for dissenters. Because of these violent acts, the U.S. State Department designated the MEK as a foreign terrorist organization in 1997. However, the MEK launched a massive, multi-million-dollar lobbying campaign in Western capitals. In 2012, during the Obama administration, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton delisted them. But even then, the U.S. government warned, "We have not forgotten their past terrorism." Today, the goal is rebranding. The message is polished. The events look official. The branding says freedom. But the record does not change. An official State Department report was clear. They are shunned by most Iranians and are fundamentally undemocratic. They are not a viable alternative for Iran. However, some prominent U.S. political figures and advocacy networks have tried to rebrand the MEK. But make no mistake, these are paid appearances.
And MEK is leading the way to a free Iran.
Is there an alternative to the mullahs, to the dictatorship? And the answer is yes. It's the resistance. It's the MEK. It's Mrs. Rajabi.
The MEK has funneled massive sums into speakers' fees, but they are not buying legitimacy. They're renting it. Today, they hide behind shell groups like the Organization of Iranian American Community to appear popular. They can still push the same narrative through lobbying and legacy media, and they even disable comments across their digital platforms because they cannot handle public feedback. But we've seen the history. We're not buying the packaging. We're reading the receipts.
There you go, guys. So there's the connection between the MEK and the Tudeh party from, let me just pull it up here. The MEK and the Tudeh party from back in the 1940s who tried to assassinate the Shah, right? There's Mohammad Mossadegh, right? And all the communists and leftists and Islamists are like, oh, Mossadegh was a democratic elected. No, Mossadegh was a communist terrorist that was trained and funded by the Islamic regime in order to bring Iran under the Iron Curtain, right? And as you can see, the only people who support Mossadegh today are the MEK, and the MEK are the same Marxist terrorist people, right? So there you go. There you go. That's the connection between the two. All right, let me go to a few more super chats and then we'll continue. So I think the last one was Push Up said, fun fact, MEK was founded by Mossadegh government ministers. Yes, I believe you're correct. I'll have to look into it. But given the fact that Mariam Rajavi is, honoring Mossadegh, it totally makes sense. Ika Motmo says, so Islam, communists, Mohammad Mossadegh, and the Tudeh party are like Islam, communists, the woke, Obama, and the Democrat Party right now. Yes, 100%. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So what you're seeing happening today, we Iranians, we've already seen this entire story unfold like 50, 60 years ago. 100%. It's the exact same thing. Yep. Even to the point where back in the day, they tried several times to assassinate the Shah of Iran. And today you're seeing like what, 3, 4 attempts to assassinate President Trump, and it's all coming from the left, right? So the same assassination attempts against President Trump today, that's what was happening 40, 50, 60, it's not 40, but like 50, 60 years ago against the Shah of Iran at the time. The assassination attempts. It's what the left does. They're violent. I have a whole video about this. If you go to my YouTube channel, under my playlist Goldie Unfiltered, I actually have a rant where I speak about why the woke far left are terrorists. And I encourage everyone to go and watch that. Push Up says, fun fact, the CIA listening posts in Iran on the Soviet border were so important that at first Carter supported the Shah, then something changed. Yeah, what changed was money. What changed was the Soviets convincing Carter that the Shah was anti-America and that Khomeini was pro-America, and Carter was an idiot and thought he could control Khomeini because Carter was under the impression that the best way to protect America's interests was to create a religious belt. So if we go back to the Soviet map, let me just bring that up again. I closed it, but I closed the link, but let me bring it up again. So this is what changed. Okay. So what changed with Jimmy Carter is that he was somehow convinced that the best way to protect the rest of the world from the communist threat was to turn Iran into a theocracy. So Jimmy Carter, the idiot, and I hope he's suffering in hell. Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer idiot, thought that if he supports a religious theocracy, that would create a religious belt, which would then, that religious belt would protect and shield the rest of the world from communism. What Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer idiot, didn't understand was that Khomeini and all of these various religious theocratic paramilitary groups were actually funded and trained by the Soviets, because it was like the biggest psyops. And yeah. And Jimmy Carter basically not only stabbed the Shah in the back, but Jimmy Carter then is, basically put Americans at risk. And every single American who has been a victim of the Islamic regime, you can put the blame on Jimmy Carter, because not only is Jimmy Carter responsible for the deaths of Iranians, Jimmy Carter is also responsible for the deaths of American citizens, because Jimmy Carter thought that if he created a religious belt, that would protect Americans from communism. And we all saw what happened there, because this unholy alliance of the red and the black existed way before Jimmy Carter. Right? The unholy alliance of the red and the black goes back to the 1940s, where the communists and the Islamists united in their, what's the word I'm looking for? They united in their sort of like the similar ideology they had was their anti-Western ideology, right? So because both the Islamists and the communists hated the West, they united. Their end goals were different, but that's where the unholy alliance of the red and the black comes from. And that's what you're seeing today in America, where, you're seeing Antifa and communists and Marxists, and even the woke left are supporting Islamic terrorists over supporting the United States, right? That's basically the Democrats and what's happening today. So history is pretty much repeating itself there with that. So yeah. John Diamond says, when I was in college back in the late 60s and early 70s, the MEK had affiliation with the SDS and the Weather Underground on our campus. Wait, what's the SDS? I don't know what the SDS is, but yeah, the MEK has been around for a long time, and they've sort of been affiliated with communist groups. That's weird. Sure. Okay. I'd rather you speak English, right? Like, mashallah is Arabic. I'm not Arab. I speak Persian. So I guess, thanks for the super chat, but please speak English, because, if you want to speak Persian, that's fine. I can translate, but like when you send me super chats in random languages, it makes zero sense to me. Weirdo. Stop being weird. All right. Daniel says, Representative Tom McClintock did a C-SPAN interview 2 weeks ago saying he wanted to arm the MEK. He is in that video.
Washington, they are...
Yeah, so in a previous live stream, we actually went over all of the people that all the people that are shown in this video. And I remember Tom McClintock, he was one of them. And the reason that he's saying this is because he's being paid by the MEK. So these people are literally traitors to American. They're traitors to America, and you guys need to know that, because like this is very, very serious. And these people are literally willing to sell their souls for money, and they're willing to risk the safety and national security of their countries in order to promote the MEK, because they want money. Scott says, hopefully, God willing, if the Iranian people can take back their country, would there be any interest in changing the country name back to Persia? No, and that's because Iran is the original name of the country. The word Iran comes from Iran Shah, and the word Iran has actually existed for thousands of years before Islam was invented. So a lot of people sort of make the honest mistake of equating Iran with Islam. Iran has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Iran is what we have always called ourselves. Persia is like the Greek word for Iran. So think of it this way, like, you know how for Germany, in English we say Germany, but in the German language, the name of the country is Deutschland, right? Deutschland is the original name of the country. In English, we say Germany. Same thing with Iran. So Iran has always been the official name of the country. We have always referred to ourselves as Iranians. We have always referred to our country as Iran. And it, you know, Persia is like a Greek word. So no, we're actually not going to change the name back to Persia because Persia is not the original name of the country. Iran is the original name of the country. And you know what's really interesting is that if you actually look up Iran right now, prior to, so you know, this is really important as well. So prior to 1979, the name of our country was Iran. When the Islamic Republic took over in 1979, they changed the name of our country to the Islamic Republic of Iran. So, and then, you know, the motto is Allahu Akbar, which is Arabic. Like guys, I'm Persian. I don't even speak Arabic. I speak Persian. The name of our language is Persian. So yeah, like prior to 1979, the name of the country was Iran. It's always been Iran. So yeah, we are not going to change the name to Persia because Persia is the Greek word for Iran. But what we will do is when our country is free, we're going to get rid of the Islamic Republic part, and it's just going to be Iran because we're Iranians. And if you actually look up the history of the, you know, so this is really interesting. So if you're interested in learning more about this, there's actually, it's a, you know, I don't usually trust Wikipedia, but I've read this article several times and it's actually pretty good. So if you look up the name of Iran on Wikipedia, that gives you a pretty good breakdown of, you know, the difference between Iran and Persia. So historically, Iran was commonly referred to as Persia in the Western world. Likewise, the modern day ethnonym Persian was typically used as a demonym for all Iranian nationals, regardless of whether or not they were ethnic Persian. So this terminology prevailed until 1935, when during an international gathering for Nowruz, Nowruz is the first day of spring and the first day of the Iranian New Year, the Shah of Iran, Reza Shah Pahlavi, officially requested that foreign delegates begin using the endonym Iran in formal correspondence. Subsequently, Iran and Iranian were standardized as the terms referring to the country and its citizens, respectively. So, this is why we're not going to change the name of the country to Persia, because the original name of the country is Iran and we're Iranians. And not all Iranians are Persian. So, for example, me, I think I'm only like 25% ethnically Persian. I'm like at least 75% Lor Bakhtiari. So, not all Iranians are Persian, but all Persians are Iranians. There are also other ethnic groups that are Iranian, myself included. So that's why Iran is the proper name. And it's just really unfortunate that for the last 47 years, the Islamic regime has made people think that Iran is affiliated with Islam, but it's the farthest thing from the truth. Iran has absolutely nothing to do with Islam or Muslims or whatever. Our civilization, the name of our country, our identity existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before Islam was invented. So I hope that gives some clarification. Guys, I'm always happy to answer this question because I know there's a lot of confusion around it. So honest question. But yeah, I would suggest everyone just, go to Wikipedia, look up the article Name of Iran. It'll give you some good context and info on that as well. All right, next super chat. So Push Up says, my source for MEK Mossadegh thing is Marxist Mossadegh fanboy Ervan something, the guerrilla movement. Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. But I mean, yeah, the connections between Mossadegh and the MEK are definitely there. But thank you for that. Scotter says, wow, thank you so much, Goldie, for the amazing education about the country. Oh my gosh, you're very welcome. I'm happy that you appreciate the info. Like, guys, I could talk about this for hours and hours, right? Like, this is just, I love talking about Iran and the history and the culture and all the various aspects of it. And yeah, like you guys give me energy. So I appreciate the fact that you're interested in learning all of this stuff. So very cool. Thank you all for being here. All right. Okay, so let's continue with our documentary.
On the back.
All right, let's go back a little bit to where we were.
Any nerves, any teeth?
Right. So we were speaking about the communists attempting to assassinate the Shah of Iran the same way that the communists today are trying to assassinate President Trump. Guys, I also saw this like crazy video. Oh my gosh, guys. I saw this crazy video from Fox News that was posted an hour ago. I'm dying to share it. So, okay, should I go to like breaking news about Iran, or do you want me to continue watching the documentary? Or should we like do breaking news and then while we're waiting for more breaking news, watch the documentary in between? What do you guys want? Because there is like some updates from Fox News and it's really interesting. Okay, Push-Ups is saying change it to Iran like a proper American. All right, I'll think about that. Iran, that's too funny. Okay, breaking news. Oh my gosh, okay. Okay, guys. All right. Look at this. Guys, like I might have to wait, what's the Fox News schedule? I might have to like tune into Fox News now. Jeez. Oh no, Sean Hannity's not going back on until like 2 a.m. I'm not going to be awake that long. Okay, so this is the breaking news. Like, this is just crazy. Guys, watch this.
Fox News alert, wheels up. Air Force One's on the way to Beijing. The commander-in-chief preparing for a high-stakes meeting with Xi Jinping. China's already rolling out the red carpet because the president's bringing the dream team, Rubio, Hegseth, and Scotty B. Rubio's been banned and sanctioned by the Chinese for 6 years, and they just lifted it. He's clear. And the president's bringing the best and brightest, 16 CEOs, including from Apple, Boeing, Goldman, and Visa, all flying west. Even Elon's making the trip. Should be just like the good old times. POTUS says we make a lot of money with China and is using the trip as a big business opportunity. But the two will have a lot to talk about. AI, Taiwan, and obviously Iran.
We're going to have a long talk about it. I think he's been relatively good, to be honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problem. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem. And he's been a friend of mine. He's been somebody that we get along with. I think you're going to see that good things are going to happen. This is going to be a very exciting trip. A lot of good things are going to happen.
Beijing's economy is showing some cracks. And without their top two oil proxies, Iran and Venezuela, the Chinese are getting a little desperate. And they may even offer us a little help with the gay Ayatollah. But President Trump says, don't bother.
Gay Ayatollah.
No, I don't think we need any help with Iran. We'll win it one way or the other. We'll win it peacefully or otherwise.
The generals prefer otherwise. They're saying the Iranians just drove past a major off-ramp. We could be on the road to more war. NBC reporting that the president already has a name if he restarts bombing again. Operation Sledgehammer. Time's running out for peace.
It's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They will not have a nuclear weapon. They know that. They've agreed to that.
Guys, time is running out for peace. Time is running out for peace. Guys, I'm dying to share my video with you, but I filmed it, but I haven't edited it yet. So, oh my gosh, like I need to like share my video with you guys, but I can't do it yet. But guys, time is running out for peace. That's the signal.
And then that's not what they said to me when it came to Fed. We don't play games. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
The president called Iran's latest proposal unacceptable. And now the ceasefire is on life support. 47 might have to break the negotiation stalemate.
According to regional sources that I talked to this morning, the domestic pressure on the regime is increasing each and every day. And they view this broadly as something called death by a thousand cuts. They believe that President Trump has a variety of options on the table moving forward that could damage the Iranian regime further on a military level that would make it even more difficult for those in Tehran to rebuild after the war.
Reports say the president's considering a resumption of major combat operations. The Pentagon says they are locked and loaded.
We have a plan to escalate if necessary. We have a plan to retrograde if necessary. We have a plan to shift assets. Certainly in this setting, we wouldn't reveal what the next step may be, considering the gravity of the mission that the president is undertaking to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear bomb.
On the menu, a special ops mission to snatch Iran's uranium. In the last 48 hours, both Trump and the Israelis have toyed around with the idea.
How do you envision the highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran?
You go in and you take it out.
With what? Special forces from Israel, special forces from the United States?
Well, I'm not going to talk about military means, but what President Trump has said to me.
Yeah, like this is what I don't understand. Why does the media think, like this is the most, like the stupidest thing ever. Why does the media think that they can ask what the military strategy or military operation is going to be, and then the politicians are going to answer like, are you guys stupid? Do you actually think that like President Trump or Prime Minister Netanyahu are going to tell you in advance what their military strategy is in order to overthrow the Islamic regime? Like, yeah, sure, let's give away the military operation and the military plans, and that is, you know, like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Like, I don't understand. And then when you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu or President Trump, they gave a vague answer like, well, you know, maybe this, maybe that, maybe so-and-so, maybe not. The media take that and then they run with it and they're like, oh, look, President Trump is attacking so-and-so. Like, it's so frustrating. I'm like, are you retarded? Like, are you seriously retarded? And I say this for, like, guys, former politician, do you think that I would ever come out in a media interview and just give away classified information? Obviously not. And I did so many media interviews, and whenever the media asked me a question where they were like asking about classified information, do you think I would just be like, oh yeah, okay, you know what, the question that you're asking, you know, the information is classified, but let me tell you all the information, right? Do you think I would do that? No, I would just give a vague answer like, well, you know, maybe this, maybe that. Like, you're never going to give it away, right? Like, it's so stupid. Like, how stupid are the media? So frustrating.
I want to go in there.
The Pentagon just revealed the location of a top-secret submarine capable of launching nuclear missiles. The Ohio-class sub's docked in Gibraltar, and its Trident II ballistic missiles can hit targets over 4,500 miles away. The Pentagon never discloses the locations of their nuclear subs, and they just did, just hours after the Iranians sent us that crummy proposal. On the ground, the military's training robo-dune buggies with mounted machine guns. It's next-gen stuff. They were just seen in Morocco, similar terrain to Iran. And we're also going to start arming Apache helicopters with their own drones. Look at that. Also in the skies, Our B-1 bombers are conducting training missions. And here are the Super Hornets and Growlers launching from the USS Lincoln. General Keane says, we might have to pull the trigger.
We know the regime is likely going to survive even if we return to combat operations, but we would want it to be so weakened that it's vulnerable to collapse. I think we've given negotiations truly a test of time to see if it would work, and it's not going to work. And my judgment is the best thing to do is go back and finish what we started.
The UAE's jumping in too. Reports say they've been carrying out secret strikes on Iran. They hit an oil refinery last month. And Reuters is reporting that the Saudis got off the sidelines. In retaliation to Iranian aggression, the kingdom launched missiles inside the mainland. You know it's bad when the Jews and Arabs are on the same page. The Iranians still talking a big game, though. The parliament speaker says this: our armed forces are ready to deliver a well-deserved response. Mistaken decisions will always lead to mistakes.
Yeah, okay. Really? Which armed forces? The ones that have been decimated?
Results. The Iranians still haven't even broken through our wall of steel. The embargo's already turned around 65 ships. And economic fury is squeezing the IRGC's oil pipeline to the Chinese. Bessent just slapped on more sanctions. Raising Cane says the Iranians are feeling it.
They are absolutely feeling that pressure, not just from the blockade, as the Secretary talked about, but the continuation of sanctions that Treasury and others have put on there. And we retain a range of military options.
The Democrats, though, they say we're losing.
You've achieved a series of tactical successes, but are on the verge of a strategic loss, because we are now negotiating.
I just think it's so foolish. Here we are in a committee in the United States Senate, 74 days in, and you're talking about strategic loss. We have the ability to defeat a 47-year threat of a pursuit of a nuclear weapon. We have more leverage than we've ever had. We've had incredible battlefield successes, and you're talking about a strategic loss?
Democrats, like the Iranians, are begging for a stalemate. And the media, well, they just can't keep up.
Mr. President, you promised to bring inflation down. It's now at its highest level in 3 years. Are your policies not working?
No,
What's
my
happening?
policies are working incredibly. If you go back to just before the war, for the last 3 months, inflation was at 1.7%. Now, we had a choice. Let these lunatics have a nuclear weapon. If you want to do that, then you're a stupid person, and you happen to be. I mean, I know you very well.
The markets are stomaching all of this. The Dow is up today. Wages are up even after that hot inflation report because Iran closed the strait. But the price of crude is still down from 2 weeks ago. And the president says this all ends soon. And it only ends in one way.
We're either going to make a deal or they're going to be decimated. So one way or the other.
Boom! Right, guys? This is what I've been telling you. The only deal that President Trump is interested in is unconditional surrender, right? So unconditional surrender, the only deal he wants. And if the Islamic regime does not agree to unconditional surrender, he's going to boom, boom them. That's what I've been saying from the very, very beginning. And he's literally confirming that every single day.
We win. The president's heading into China in high spirits. Next 48 hours will be huge. The United States is prepared for anything. We've been wargaming with all our Pacific allies all spring and just announced Space Force, alongside America's space allies, just completed a joint plan for conducting orbital warfare by the end of the year. And we're selling Taiwan $25 billion in weapons in case the Chinese get frisky. We're going to turn that little island into a little porcupine. Whatever happens, we're dressed for success. Rubio slipped into a Nike sweatsuit on Air Force One. It's the same outfit that Maduro rocked when we nabbed him.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So there was a little bit of a news break. Now let's go back to the documentary. Wow. Okay.
The peasants. Would you recall for us the events of the 4th of February 1949, which was in fact the first attempt to assassinate you at Tehran University?
As usual, every year I was going to distribute the diplomas and the first prizes to the students of Tehran University at the Faculty of Law. And all of a sudden, I hear shots and
guys, isn't it interesting, in a really morbid way, how the assassination attempt on the Shah of Iran at the time in 1949, it was at a university, right? It was at a university, and the vast majority of assassination attempts or assassinations by the woke left communist Marxists in America are happening at university. I mean, look where Charlie Kirk was when he was assassinated by the far left. He was at a university. He was speaking at a university. Universities have always been hubs of radicalism for the communists and the Islamists, and you're seeing this right now manifesting in the United States. This is what was happening in Iran 50, 60, 70 years ago.
my face is projected to one side when I realized that I was being shot at. And he had shot 3 bullets through my hat, 1 through my cheek, but the bullet came out just through the nose without hurting anything, any nerves, any teeth. 1 was destined for the heart, but at this fraction of, or even less than a fraction of a second, I was just making a gesture, a turn of the body. So I got it in my left elbow on the back. The man was killed because he was trying to escape. But then we found out that he was frequenting a man who had connections with the rightist fanatic clergymen. But he had
So rightist fanatic clergymen, that's the Islamists, right? So the jihadi, so the Durkas. So the communists that tried to assassinate the Shah of Iran, he had connections with the Durkas.
had communistic.
Oh, there you go.
A man who had connections with the rightist fanatic clergymen, but he had communistic pamphlets and literature in his house.
There you go. That's the unholy alliance of the red and the black. So guys, right now you're seeing, when you're wondering, the unholy alliance of the red and the black, right? The communists, Marxists and socialists, and the woke left, and then the Islamists on the other side, right? This is exactly what you're watching right now. That was happening in Iran in the 1940s as well. And they tried to assassinate the Shah of Iran.
And his girlfriend was the daughter of the gardener of the British Embassy.
That's awkward.
I can't say for sure what he was, but anyway, this is what we found out.
For the next 4 years, the Shah became a
Guys, this is Mossadegh. This
prisoner of events.
This is Mossadegh. This is the Tudeh party, opium addicted communist freak that was funded by Russia to overthrow the Shah and bring Iran under the Iron Curtain. And he was basically upset because he was part of the previous Qajar dynasty, and he was upset that he was not the Shah. So this is the guy. This is the weird opium addicted freak that all the woke left and communists and Marxists claim, democratically elected prime minister, right? Like literally the garbage person. Oh, Laszlo is saying Pahlavi was just a response on Jeopardy. Cool. I think that's not the first time though. Pahlavi has been a response on Jeopardy previously. I think it happened one time before, but that's really cool. I'm glad that Pahlavi's name is becoming more mainstream because we need that. We need this to happen. So thank you for sharing that. That's really cool news.
The man who controlled those events was Iran's prime minister of the period, Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh became the popular hero of Iran because he told the people what they most wanted to hear.
Oh, who does that remind you of? He became the popular hero because he told people what they wanted to hear, not what he was actually going to do. Does that sound like anyone? Does that remind you guys of anyone? Who does that remind you of? Someone who's just a liar, who's like a weird communist Marxist jihadi, who just, yeah, there you go. There you go. Who does that remind you of? Yeah, someone who just basically tells you what you want to hear, and then as soon as they come into power, they change their entire policy and platform, right? Yeah. Look at that smile. It makes me want to throw up. Everything that Mamdani like promised to New Yorkers, Khomeini promised the same thing to Iranians, and then, you know, as soon as he got into power, you know, they started executing everyone. But yeah, guys, the communist playbook is always the same. Like, it's never changed. The communist playbook is always has always been the same thing. Unfortunately, people who don't know their history, they just fall for it every generation. So yeah.
The arrogant foreigners could be humbled and made to pay much more for Iran's oil. Abadan became one of the best-known datelines as the oil crisis developed. When Britain refused to pay a penny more for oil, Iran nationalized. The British replied with an economic and diplomatic offensive aimed at the economic strangulation of Iran. When Mossadegh couldn't deliver what he'd promised, he denounced the need for a settlement and plunged Iran further along the road to bankruptcy. The explosive anti-British mood.
Oh, look, so Mossadegh promised a whole bunch of random garbage to the people, and the people believed him. And then when he, you know, came to power, because the Shah appointed him as the prime minister, he couldn't deliver, and then he basically bankrupted the country. That's literally exactly what's happened to New York right now, where Mamdani promised a bunch of things, didn't deliver, and now New York City is bankrupt, right? Like, it's literally the exact same thing. Like, what's happening in New York City right now is exactly what was happening in Iran in the 1950s.
Continued to support Mossadegh's policy of no compromise, which the Shah opposed. But when Mossadegh showed his intention to eliminate the Pahlavi dynasty, he overplayed his hand. His broad-based support began to evaporate. At the final showdown in August 1953, his support was coming mainly from the communists. He had become their prisoner.
Obviously, the communists were 100% behind him because they knew that they could topple him in no time. In matter of fact, when he was thrown out by the revolution of the people, and when we occupied the two-day headquarters and from some of the offices belonging to the party, we found out that they planned to overthrow him 2 weeks after my departure.
So if he had beaten you,
he would have been overthrown 2 weeks later, not more.
And in that case, Iran would have been in danger of becoming a communist state?
Another republic, yes.
Under Mossadegh, the number of communist officers in Iran's armed forces rose from 100 to 600 in less than a year, and a soldier of the Imperial Guard was involved in a later attempt on the Shah's life.
You finally gave a...
Oh, look, another assassination attempt on the Shah. So, like, there were multiple assassination attempts on the Shah of Iran.
Decree for Mossadegh's arrest, and he reacted by proclaiming the coup. But you left the country for Baghdad, where you were very nearly arrested, I think, by your own ambassador. Did you think it a gamble at the time? Did you think you might not be coming back?
Well, you think of everything, obviously. But my going was prepared. It was planned that if my firman or my orders were not obeyed and carried out immediately, next move would be my departure.
According to most Western accounts of the final struggle between you and Mossadegh, the CIA played a big role in restoring you to power.
Okay, guys, this is really important, okay? So, this is where everyone's like, oh, the CIA overthrew Mossadegh and the CIA, planted the Shah. Keep in mind, the Shah became the Shah of Iran in 1941, and now we're talking about events of 1953. So this is the part that you will never hear in the mainstream media or anywhere, in fact, because the communists and the Marxists have just, they've engaged in so much historical revisionism that no one even bothers to look for the truth anymore. But here's the truth about the CIA involvement in the 1953 situation.
Struggle between you and Mossadegh, the CIA played a big role in restoring you to power. Precisely what role did the CIA play in that?
Well, the CIA, like your people, like all the Western countries of the world, they were just trembling at seeing the rule of Mossadegh continuing. Some of the people involved from the CIA have already spoken, and they might elucidate this even more. CIA spent not more than $70,000 in this country during those days. If you can stage a coup with $70,000, then you can rule the whole world with just a couple of millions.
So you're saying they exaggerate and Western accounts exaggerate?
Well, to that extent, you can draw your own conclusions. What can you do with $70,000?
Whatever the precise truth about the Shah's return to Iran in triumph after Mossadegh's defeat, one thing is for sure. Those who rose up in support of the monarch wouldn't have charged Mossadegh's machine guns with their bare hands for a fistful of dollars. The Shah had on occasions to appear as a nationalist prepared to compromise because he was determined to avoid his father's mistake of pushing the big powers too far, too fast. In December 1959, the Shah married Farah Diba. This was the Shah's third marriage. Neither of the others, first to Fawzia and then Soraya, had produced a son and heir. But by now, the Shah was looking for more than a wife who could bear him a son. What he most needed was a queen who would share with him the burdens of nation building. When her father, a soldier who studied law, died, Farah and her mother had to struggle to live. To marry the Shah, Farah Diba gave up a promising career in architecture. But in the years to follow, she would become, with the Shah's full support, an architect of radical social change in Iran.
When the king asked you to marry him, what were your thoughts?
Well, I had always loved the king as the king to my country. Without question, he was my king, and I loved him. And I admired him, and I respected him. And, of course, when he asked me to marry him, it's difficult to change suddenly from the love of a citizen to his king, from between a man and a woman. I must say, frankly, that I felt, first of all, very proud, and because I admired him so much. And also, when you're young and you're 19, 20 years of age, you think that now I will become a queen and I could do so many things for my country. And that was also in my mind. It was not only my private life, but also that what I could be able to do.
A year after the marriage, Crown Prince Reza was born.
Guys, that's our baby Shah. That's our baby Shah. That's our current Shah of Iran. This is when he was born. This is when he was a baby.
The continuation of the dynasty now assured, barring accidents, the Shah had an added incentive for pushing ahead with his plans for reform.
In January 1962, you persuaded the cabinet to accept the land reform bill, but Parliament refused consistently to pass it. Why was that?
Well, Parliament were mostly belonging to the old establishment, although they were mostly doctors and mostly had a degree from very well-known universities. But still, by heart and the spirit was belonging to the established society.
What was called the 1,000 families, I think.
1,000, some people said 200, some people said more, but I'm not just going to say families. To the old established order, I would put it this way.
When they continued to resist your demand for change, did you think that you were again taking a risk? It's a pretty big risk, I would have thought.
Less in those days. First of all, I had more experience. Secondly, I had told people, and anyway, I had convinced myself that no country had more than a certain number of years in front of it before it could either reach an acceptable level of standard of living and progressive rules, or that country will disappear. That was very clear for me. And events are showing that probably I was right. You can't remain in this world full of intrigues and other things, a backward, miserable country, and still be independent. Independence with us is so important that in order to have it, to keep it, to consolidate it, we do anything. Fortunately, in our case, it was making reforms.
The Shah's first step towards land reform came in 1951 when he ordered the Crown lands to be redistributed by sale at concessionary prices to peasant farm workers. The Shah personally distributed thousands of title deeds.
Guys, oh my gosh, look how much the Shah was a dictator. Remember, all the communists and Marxists and lefties and woke progressives, they're like, oh, the Shah was a dictator. Wow, what sort of dictator gives away crown land to the people in order to, I don't know, make them, help them become successful in life? What sort of dictator does that? It's typically the opposite. It's the opposite. Dictators take land away from people and take it back to the state. The Shah is literally giving away crown land to the farmers in order to help them build a life and become successful. Yeah, a real dictator, right?
The new landowning peasants were given 25 years to pay for the land. The funds so received were ploughed back into providing supporting services for the farmers. The Shah's policy of redistributing the Crown lands was meant to be an example to the old establishment, which owned more than 50% of the land and was therefore the most influential power in the country. The Shah's battle with the feudal landowners and their allies of the extreme right and left was long and bloody and included another attempt on his life.
So that's basically the third attempt. That's now the third attempt on the Shah's life by the woke left and the woke right? The far left and far right. Third attempt on his life.
His personal war with the old establishment began in May of 1962 when Parliament rejected his proposals for nationwide land reform. At the time, Parliament was controlled by the landowners and an assortment of corrupt politicians. The Shah went over the heads of the politicians and appealed directly to the people for support for his reform program. At a special congress in Tehran, attended by 4,000 peasant delegates from all over the country, he made this commitment. I cannot...
Wow, 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 wow. Look at how much of a dictator he was. He was such a huge dictator that he decided to listen to the people instead of the corrupt politicians, right? The sort of the old guard who had been in control for so long. So, wow, he brought 4,000 peasants to parliament. Yeah, because he was such a dictator, right? Do you see how the communists and the Islamists have engaged in such historical revisionism, and how frustrating it is for us as Iranians that people just they just accept the fact that, you know, the Shah was a dictator without actually looking into the truth of the matter?
Not remain a neutral onlooker in the struggle against the forces of evil, but have taken up the banner myself. So that no power can reinstate the regime of slavery in the villages and plunder the nation's wealth for the benefit of a minority, I have decided to refer these reforms to a referendum.
Look at that. So basically, in order to make sure that the feudal landlords and the clergy and the rich communists weren't able to, take Iranian peasants and use them as slaves anymore, the Shah of Iran decided to hold a national referendum. And because he held a national referendum where the Iranian people could vote on various issues, the elite called him a dictator because he went over their heads and he supported the Iranian people instead of the Islamic clergy and the communists and the feudal landlords, right? There you go. There you go.
The referendum which followed overwhelmingly endorsed the Shah's plans. After nearly a quarter of a century of struggle, he had found his power base. It was with the peasants and the common folk from whom he was descended. But to this day, the war against poverty and injustice which the Shah launched at the Peasant Congress has not been finally won. The progress Iran has made under the leadership of the Shah and Queen Farah is impressive and far-reaching. But because the country was so poor, much still needs to be done. Most ominous of all, some of the old feudal mentality remains in Iran. There are still those, including some in very high places, who dream of a return to the old days of power and privilege for the minority at the expense of those still poor. When the Shah launched his ambitious program of land reform, he said, "What we have started is not a reform limited to land, but something that will change Iranian society." In the second and third of these film reports, I will be investigating the reality of change and the consequences of it. What happens when a nation ceases to be merely the object of the policies of others and becomes a developing country whose decisions and actions will play an increasing part in shaping the destiny of all nations.
That was part one of a 3-part documentary series, but that was part 2 of part 1 of the documentary series. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. We are going to continue with our documentary watch parties. So make sure that you've liked and subscribed, and make sure that you turn on your notifications, because if you thought that the first part was interesting, wait for the second and third parts, because the second and third parts are even more eye-opening and even more interesting. So having said that, thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you appreciated this, Goldie Show documentary watch party. And guys, do not forget that tomorrow we are going live again at 1 p.m. Eastern for Iran Revolution Live. So yeah, make sure you've liked and subscribed to my YouTube channel. This is my YouTube channel here, and as you can see, upcoming live stream happening tomorrow. So we will see you then. And yeah, keep an eye out, because I'm going to have more of my short form content videos going out as well. So I do appreciate that you got, thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate all your feedback and comments, and it's nice to know that you're enjoying these learning videos. So if you haven't already seen my video, is Trump arming the Iranians? Make sure that you go watch that. I have more of those coming out. I finished filming one earlier today. Let's see how much of the editing I can get done. But yeah, stay tuned, because I'm going to be putting out a lot more content like this. And as always, Payande Iran, Javid Shah, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I had to load up the video. See you guys tomorrow.
غرق انقلاب است. کشور ما، تاریخ ما در سیدگر فرا گرفته، گویی اهورا مستا دوباره در نور خود مرا گرفته. اشکون سرودی سر میدهم باز فارغ از رنج و تشویش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. هن ای پدر، هن ای پسر، برخیز و با ما شو همگام، تا درد آن تجربه تلخ ما را نکشیده در آب. بگذار هر دم بغرند گرگ‌ها دم لباس میش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ای کارگر، ای برزگر، راحت کنون ادامه دارد در این زمان که پرتو یزدان از هر سو بر تو میبارد. پس پیش به سوی آزادی از بحر خزر تا کیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. خلقا به پا بهر دفاع از استقلال و آزادی، تا بشکنیم پشت ارتجاع تیریزی ویران آبادی. تا زنده سازیم سنت‌های می از من آلین و کیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. با امید روزی که تمام این دلبشو و انقلاب تموم بشه و ما در روشنایی، نور
و سعادت مردم کشورمون غرق بشه.
نه خارجی نه بیگانه نه مستشارهای ایرانی، نه جیر خاران نه کاسلیسان، فقط هم رزمان ایرانی.
ما با شرافت میهنیم بسازیم فخر فرزندان خویش.
ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش.
ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش.
مردان بیایید داخل صف ما، اکنون که آغاز رویاست. دشمنان بدانید ما زنده هستیم، بعد از ما هم ایران پابرجاست. آن روح شیطان ما را فریب داد با صد شعار مردمیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش.
ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش.
پرچم ما پرچم ایران غرق خون شهیدان، روی شانه هامان حمل می‌کنیمش در هر خیابان و میدان. تا ماسک دلقکان را برداریم از روی تسبیح و ریش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش